All students need the advantages of after-school programs thanks to an organization called Our Space, Our Place. The advantages are more accessible to students of color who are visually impaired. To tell us about the program is its founder, as well as its board president and acting executive director, Cheryl Cumings. Thank you very much for being with us, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Sure. First of all, in your background, you came from a Boston neighborhood. You went to Ivy League college. You got into a postgraduate program in international relations. You've had a rich life. How did you manage to do something that's maybe so difficult for other people with disabilities?
I don't know if it's necessarily difficult. I mean, it's just primarily I've been fortunate that I was always sort of good at school and was able to continue being good at school even after I became blind, and got into a pretty good college, took advantage of that, and then did the same thing with graduate school. And to the extent that I can or could, I tried to follow sort of the goals I'd set for myself.
And you also work with farmers in the Dominican Republic while you were in the Peace Corps.
Yes and no. So I worked with an organization that was founded with the aim of retraining farmers who'd lost their vision. And my role was basically to help with board development and outreach, making people aware of the work of the organization. So I didn't directly work with farmers. I worked more sort of on the administrative side of the organization.
I know you've worked with barriers. You've also worked for the state, helping people overcome barriers. But how did that lead to your setting up the organization?
Well, it did in the sense that as I was doing sort of the community outreach and meeting families and children, I remained concerned that even though there are all these advantages being made available, that there is still an amazingly high unemployment rate. So a lot of people don't know that within the blindness community, the rate of unemployment is still, it's been the same for years and years. Basically it says 2/3 of people who are of age and who want to work are unable to find employment. And I just thought that's insane. And that's something we've got to figure out how to change. And so we created this organization as we started talking about sort of when do you help position people to be able to be resilient, as they say today, or to be able to overcome obstacles and barriers. We initially thought about, okay, maybe we work with college-age kids, but as you thought through the process, you thought, that's too old. Because to some extent, if you aren't already, if you don't know already how to sort of figure out things, and that you, as a person with a disability, that you've got to not allow the world to tell you who you can be by the time you're in college, then it's a little too late. So we ended up creating an after-school program, and an after-school program with sort of this component of career exploration.
When I think of the name of your organization, it's almost as if you're not just providing support or skills. It's almost like you're telling the students, this is where you can feel that you belong.
Yes, absolutely. And that was amazing. That was just fundamentally important, because in putting together the organization, we did focus groups with young adults who were blind, and parents and teachers. And one of the things that the kids told us was that, they are so often in places where they don't feel as if they can fully express themselves. And one of the stories that really stuck with me was this young woman who at the time was attending school, one of the Boston public schools, and talked about how her best time of the year was 1 week when she went to a summer camp for kids who were blind, and how at that point she felt that she was able to, play tricks and be silly and, do what you just thought other kids could do. And I just thought that it was horrific that, for 51 weeks of the year, somebody is feeling that they aren't able to be fully themselves.
Well, I know these days we hear a lot more of strategic talk about inclusion for students and making them all feel engaged. But even if a school does that pretty well, what's the missing piece that you help with?
I think the part that we add is that because the way the organization is set up, the sort of underlying sentiment and feeling is that there's nothing wrong with being blind. Because in so many other forums, not that people say that, but everybody's sort of trying to fix you, right? So you can't see, and instead of the message being, oh, you need to do this differently, so many times it's like, you're not doing this the right way. You're not doing this the way so that sighted people aren't made uncomfortable with you being around them. And so what we try to do in our organization is to just say, okay, you're blind, we're blind, we understand that. We understand that sometimes that means that you might move your hand too quickly on a table and you knock over a glass. So you knock over a glass, sighted people do that too. Or, so just, and then also just giving our students opportunities to take on roles that I think other people don't necessarily think they can play, and involving us in activities, all types of activities. So we have theater classes, we do dance classes, we go to the gym, the kids can like we do the rock climbing walls if they want. We have a running club. So a huge sort of, whatever the kids, and there's always, there's opportunity within our program so that if somebody says, I've always wanted to try canoeing, I can't say we'll do it tomorrow, but we'll certainly try to figure out if we can go canoeing and how do we do that.
Well, you've also worked with some of these students on coding. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. So we came to the coding program. We were given an opportunity to be part of a program called Smarter in the City, which was working with minority individuals who wanted to create a business within the technology field. And so through being part of that program, we had a chance to meet and to talk with folks within the technology field. So we had like really fantastic conversations about, like how do you make coding accessible? Because there's so many programs that are currently available, and so many of them, once again, assume that everybody can see, that everybody can use a mouse, or that everybody can, use primarily a mouse. So we did a lot of research, did a lot of talking, found folks who were themselves coders who were blind, and came up with a program basically to teach HTML and CSS.
Finally, Cheryl, we have just a little time. If
Sure.
people want to find out more about this program, is there some way they can follow up on that?
Absolutely. So we have a phone. You can look on our website, which is www.ourspaceourplace.org. You can email president@ourspaceourplace.org, or you can call 617-459-4084.